Hello and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Next to me, as always, Mike Gergoni.
Hello, John.
Next to him, Donovan Eilert.
Hello, everybody.
And today we actually, for the first time, have a fourth guest on the show.
Gasp.
I know, it's unbelievable. We had to break out another microphone to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Morgan Hickman to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Morgan.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, you're talking to everybody now.
All the people, all the people in the room.
All 12 of them? Do we have 12 subscribers?
I
I'm
think
pretty
it's about
sure.
12, yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I brought my entourage. No one can hear this, but my boys are behind me. Johnny Drama and Turtle.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know.
Your entourage is the entourage.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah. Vinny Chase is based on me, actually.
That's a fascinating fact.
Marky Mark called me. He was like, Morgan, we're making a show about your life. All right.
So, Morgan, you are a colorist primarily, correct? You're actually part of the comics trade.
I am, yeah. I receive paychecks from a comic book company.
Man.
Yeah, it's weird. It's still weird to say. I've been doing it for this will almost be a year now. Yeah, it's like a month under a year. And yeah, it's pretty insane. I work for Dynamite Entertainment.
Very cool company.
Yeah. They're not bad. They're kind of trying to find their. I think that they've kind of found their place. I think now they're kind of trying to maintain it.
They do a lot of the old kind of pulpy characters.
Exactly. Yeah. So they got a lot of rights. They don't own these characters, but they've been able to rent the rights.
Hooray, public domain.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's it's like Dracula. So they're able to work with.
Oh, you know about my love of Dracula, do you?
Yeah. And I'm trying to find a comic with Dracula. It's I don't remember it. Anyway,
Hey, Tomb of Dracula. That's old Silver Age Marvel.
Oh yeah.
That's where Blade got introduced. Is horror Tomb of Dracula. I forget what that Tomb of Dracula.
Tomb of Dracula. Yeah. It's Gene Colan and stuff. It's
I'm glad you know the
fun old
writer and artist because I don't.
Fun old 70s era Marvel when Blade wore a green and yellow costume.
The height.
yeah.
In the shadows.
yeah.
I know the Wesley Snipes really he dropped the ball on that. Really should have.
I was hoping that was going to be the fourth movie, but we never got that.
So something I want to talk about, Morgan, is sort of this jump from being a fan to being a professional.
Yeah.
How does that come about? How did you get involved in this?
Because the art industry, it's basically either you're a starving artist, you're a nobody, or you're getting paid and you're kind of quote unquote successful. At least that's how I always viewed it when I was starving. Now that I've gotten there, I'm like, oh no, successful, quote unquote, because really you're just at the precipice of starving for a while. Everything's very unsure. But going from I guess so. What really happened was, first you have to decide I want to do this. You have to really commit. You have to say I want to be involved in whatever. And so I'm just going to go for comic books now.
Right,
Comic book industry.
And that was something you always wanted to do. Comic books?
Yeah. I did. I've there's always times because again it's a pipe dream. Everyone considers it that way. It's I want to be a pro snowboarder. Yeah, good luck, buddy. And so you kind of always have to have a backup quote. So
You're speaking to a guy who's trying to get his first book published, and I lift heavy boxes for a living.
Exactly. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. And so it's So after you decide you really you want to do this, you make something, you write something because that's a big part. Is a lot of people think, or at least I thought this way at first, where I was okay, well, obviously I want to write and illustrate. That's my goal. And so I'll just kind of wait. This is insane. I'm saying God, I was so fucking crazy, delusional. I'll just wait and meet a publisher. I'll be hey, I've got this idea, and he'll be
do you know any publishers?
Yeah, well, I do now. And now I know that
you just met him on the street.
This will never happen. Yeah. Well, no, it's funny because I'll go back to the beginning in a second, but yeah. So really, I was thinking I'll just meet a publisher. I'll pitch them a story. They go, I love it. You're hired. We're gonna do a trade. 6 issues. Start. And I just thought that's how it's gonna go. And then I kind of realized oh no, you first of all you don't wait to make your first comic. Just start making comics.
Right.
Because if you say I'll just wait until the success comes and then I'll start making things. It's it doesn't work. You
That's
make
no
and you
one's
make
story.
and you create and you create. Yeah, it's Exactly. Like I think McConaughey is like the one guy that doesn't apply to, because like he met the Dazed and Confused director at a bar. And he was like, "Be in my movie, dog." But
Which, John, we were talking the other night about like which McConaughey's we would be in a McConaughey super team.
Yeah.
We've left out one very important McConaughey, and that's the Rain of Fire McConaughey.
Oh, dude, that's the first guy. He jumps like 20 feet off
Right,
a silo
right.
with an axe.
Yeah.
Only to
Axe
be
wielding,
eaten immediately.
yeah,
Right.
dragon
So
killing.
I call dibs on Rain of Fire McConaughey and our McConaughey super friends.
All right.
I'm sorry to
I
derail the
want like
conversation.
Mississippi burning McConaughey.
Okay.
And so yeah, so really like the first step is getting over your own mind blocks, like just making something, not caring if it's perfect or not. Just try and be realistic. And so that's the second part. Is I started being realistic when I realized that my job writing and illustrating wouldn't come immediately, and those are two incredibly hard things to break into. Writing is probably the hardest, and all this comes from and now I'll go back to the beginning, is growing up. Maybe you guys are aware of this, but we kind of have like a local legend in Westland, Matt
Yes.
Wagner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I grew up being best friends with his son, Brennan, and so really I grew up kind of in the Wagner household. So if you want to really go into like me and
I've
comics,
heard legends of this place.
it really goes to Wagner,
Yeah.
and having that, it was almost kind of like a gift and a curse in some ways. Mainly gift, 90% gift, 10% curse. In the sense that like I never went to a comic book store until I was like 17, because again, like I had the library.
Right.
Matt was just like, the first edition, like, oh, you want signed by Mobius? It's right there, It's like, oh yeah, Alan Moore's like all the signed things. He drew a little like self-portrait in the back.
What?
Like,
Christ.
just like, it's right there. And like the first edition, just like crazy, it's like going to like Superman's like collection of things from other ones. Just like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
read about
Yeah,
this.
something we in our first episode we kind of did our origin stories. Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, what was sort of the first comic you can remember?
And I
that
definitely,
really...
So actually, much like the Gorgon, I started with Farside. Farside was like really the first one that I really connected to, that I loved. I thought like, oh, this is like kind of what you've got me. Like I read, like I started with like that, Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes. I realize now that two of those three are still really good. One of them is total crap.
It's Calvin and Hobbes, right?
Yeah. I really was like, what? No movie? Get out of here, dude. You don't get a movie enough, then, okay?
Just saying, Bill Murray was in that movie. I'm just saying.
His only regret. So it really had to do with that, and actually, it is kind of funny because actually those first comics that I read were not given to me by Wagner. So actually, I can kind of maybe say that maybe without him, I still would have been into comic books. It's hard to say, really, but I was attracted to that because, like, I like to draw. That was just one thing. I like to just draw dinosaurs and stuff like that. So there was like kind of a basic interest in art. But after Brendan was kind of like we all kind of discovered art, and Brendan was like, oh well, my dad does that. I'm like, oh really? And he was like,
No big deal or
we're reading
anything.
comic books. Oh well, then we should finally. But then again, this is also the time where like Brendan brought in like an issue of Grendel to class, and like they had to call his parents.
Totally appropriate.
Opened it up,
Yeah.
Christine Spar's like ripping a spine out, and they're like, okay, well,
Right. I would love to see that parent-teacher comic where it's like, he brought this crazy guy. Actually, I drew and wrote that.
Yeah,
comic.
right, yeah.
That's
It's like,
mine.
It's too funny. He's like, what kind of puppy dog fucking world do you live in? It's like, I teach my, but like,
defending his art to like an
No,
elementary
really,
school
yeah.
teacher.
I mean, it would be hard because you have to say like they're gonna read this stuff eventually, and we did. So yeah, it was kind of like the beginning. With those really kind of like child comics, the quote, like strips. And I even read, I got into like Adam at Home and like Rose or whatever that is. Yeah, I got faint memories of that stuff. But then like it really, then comics took hold with manga. Like, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about, because you guys, are primarily like DC Marvel,
I have attempted to rep the manga on many occasions.
And I
It's these
respect
two
and I love that.
Philistines that can't get over that hurdle.
And so, yeah, because I've always felt, while, and you guys did make a kind of point where it is almost maybe its own genre.
It's. I think what I
It
said
kind
was
of has
it's,
evolved into it now.
it's
Like
con-
now,
it's-
it is.
it feels like it's considered that in a lot of ways.
Well, it is because
it's
people are divided simply because people do or don't read it.
right. But I mean, like you go to a store, it's separated, it's in its own
Yeah,
section. So
definitely.
like I didn't grow up around it at all. Like I was not exposed to it until way later. So to me, it was just like, what is
You
this?
didn't
But in
watch-
the,
you
but in the
watch
public
Toonami?
library, they're right next to each other, so that's how I had it all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we liked it because like it showed boobs. We were like, woo! You know, and as lo-fi as they were still that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, but also it was I kid.
But seriously, there's some boobs out there. Go check them out.
Well, there is, and that's what, like, even though like
Kids today are aware that there are boobs
get
out
into,
there.
like,
a lot of
little
boobs.
bit of and the American, and it's they don't show the nipple, but there's plenty of boob. Don't worry.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep up with the Japanese. Yeah. So you know, really, it was manga. It was Dragon Ball Z. You know, like that was like just like took it and run. I mean, like Goku is my Superman. Like if you had to say favorite superhero, Goku.
Goku,
You know?
wow.
Yeah, he's my version. Like you know, for as much as you guys know about that universe, I know about, you know, the Dragon
cool.
Ball Z universe.
Yeah.
Or, you know, what have you. You know, Yu Hakusho, Gundam. You know, we like
Have you
them
seen
all.
the new collected editions of the original Gundam manga?
Yes.
Holy shit, those
so
are
good.
gorgeous.
Have you seen the new colored Dragon Ball Zs?
Oh no!
Oh my god, they're bigger and they're in color, and it's just like, like if I didn't own like a bunch of them already, I
Right.
would start recollecting.
Well, I don't own any of them, so guess what I'm going to start doing?
I was saving that for your recommendation segment. I was like, new colored Dragon Ball Z. Oh my god, go get it. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, it was a lot of that. It was the library that Matt had was just at any time, you know, pick something and read it. And although we never really, you know, we knew kind of like what to read, what was good, but like it was funny. Matt kind of just a lot of the time like kind of left it up to us to discover what we would read. You know, he wasn't like, oh, well, you got to read this. Like
Right.
you like Batman, read this. It got that a little bit, you know, but in general, like we were kind of like, so it led to me reading some things very early on. That I couldn't really appreciate, but I knew like I started reading Akira when I was like 10.
Oh.
And you know, it's like, oh, I didn't quite get that, you know, but I love the fact that you made a dude head explode. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, Yamagata. So yeah, it was
Still
a lot
don't know
of,
how I feel about that movie.
the movie.
Yeah, that's like in perpetual development hell.
You know, I hated it the first time I watched it in high school, and then
No. I'm not talking about the anime.
Oh,
like, the movie.
Let
that's,
it stay
yeah,
in limbo.
Yeah,
Let
okay.
it never happen. You guys mentioned that, like, Ghost in the Shell movie. Oh, who's gonna play
Scarlett Johansson is
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
Major Motoko Kusanagi.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Kusanagi. Oh, white girl. Like
Yeah.
that jumps to white girl in my mind. Like, are you kidding me? Just like, yeah, you know, I believe like.
I'm glad I can finally have someone to talk to about this.
I know
shit.
Donovan and I are just like, okay.
In Chappelle's show, he says like, I'm gonna make a movie called the Last N-Word on Earth, starring Tom Hanks. Like, that sums it up perfectly. Like, yep, we got Last Samurai, put a white guy in it. We got the Mexican, put a white guy in it. It's just like, can we just stop with just whitewashing everything? Like, the hero of Africa will be played by a white man, I guarantee you. If there's a movie called like not Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, we
but, like,
already know that Black Panther has been cast as a black man.
Yes,
Thank
that is
God.
true.
Yeah,
That is true.
He's gonna be light skinned as fuck. It's gonna be Will Smith's kid, and they're gonna give him. They're gonna straighten his hair.
God.
Yeah.
Luckily, that already hasn't happened. So
Yeah. Movies. You know, I mean, like they were gonna. I mean, Keanu Reeves as Spike from Cowboy Bebop. Just like I'm so glad that never ever happened.
yeah. Well, that makes sense to me though that Keanu Reeves would be all over that.
Oh no, I mean like anyone would want to. Yeah, it's like exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I don't blame Scarlett Johansson for like wanting to play
Sure.
this character. Like it's a great comic. The movie. Have you guys seen like the movie, the anime?
Yes.
Movie? They showed it at Omnimax.
Oh snap!
and that's
Really?
I
Shaking
saw
our
it
head.
Because I know this last weekend they've been doing this anime kick over at the OMSI, the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry.
Yes.
Has a lovely theater called the Empirical.
Oh yeah.
big old theater.
A big old theater.
Big old
It's kind of a converted, like they used to have those Omnimax theaters.
Yeah.
This is kind of more of a converted space.
Yeah.
So it's not as sickening anymore.
Oh no, yeah. The Omnimax was.
Yeah, I
never
remember
felt
seeing
well
Star
coming
Wars
out.
Episode 2 in the Omnimax, and just coming out of it going, Yoda jumping too fast.
I was like, were you puking because of like the horrible puns? Like, I need to get ahead of things.
Well, yeah, the movie caused enough nausea on its own that we don't.
No. I was like 14 at the time. I didn't know any better.
That's true. It wouldn't be till years later we would discover how crappy Episode 2 was.
Right. But no, the Empirical Theater is a lovely theater in downtown Portland that has, in the last like month or so, had a kick of animes they've shown. Like last Saturday they showed Spirited Away.
I've heard
That one I do know.
That's been great.
Okay, yeah. So now you're infringing on really stabbing me because like Hayao Miyazaki is my favorite artist of all time.
Okay.
like, in every way.
No, that one I know. I know the Miyazaki stuff.
Yeah, and he's technically my favorite comic book artist too because he did a 1,800-page manga version of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Oh man.
Wow.
And it's spectacular. And like it's just like these two tomes that are like about I'm giving about like almost a foot thick.
Great on a purely audio podcast.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
displaying how big they are.
Her boobs were like this. Yeah, so, but it's huge. It's fantastic. Again, manga, a little hard to find, but they recently did this like big reprint. It's gorgeous. So yeah, so he. Like that guy transcends like everything. Everything he does is perfect.
Oh yeah, no, he's amazing.
And the one they showed Princess Mononoke in there, which
Just picked that up on Blu-ray.
Yeah, which is my favorite of the Miyazaki. So that's like I when people ask me what's your favorite movie of all time, I say Princess Mononoke.
It's up there.
Let's make it simple.
I'm sorry, I derailed your origin story. We were talking about.
Oh, no.
No, sorry, I've derailed it too. I think I kind of answered the question.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's
where did I start? Wagner's
that's the kind of stuff.
Library,
So,
kind of, you know?
Which is a hell of a place to start, by the way.
yeah, exactly. And like again, like
I started in a library too. Uncle Paul's library. Not
But
a
your
few
Uncle
people.
Paul sounds like an awesome dude, though.
We're gonna have him on the show. He's gonna be one of our guests at some point.
That will be cool.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I mean, just getting shown something by someone who knows comics, be it Matt Wagner, but also like the 110% thing is that like Matt is. When the time he came up in, he was mainly like independent comics. And he also had pretty, he had ups and downs with, being an artist and writer. And he worked with DC and Marvel. He did, a few Batman runs. He did Trinity. And so knowing those guys personally, we were like, should we read any Marvel or DC? He was like, fuck no. You stay away from that shit. Because like he knows, because he knows all the dirty things going on. He knows people's personal life. So, really,
Joe Quesada.
Yeah. It's like, I would read his stuff, but I met him at a party. Guy was a dick.
Right.
So like now I don't read his stuff. And so unfortunately, that kind of made the like, I never read Claremont's X-Men.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get a lot of spandex stuff. Like that's kind of like I am very not spandex.
Oh, wow.
Like I've read a very select bit. I tried to kind of find what was good. Matt pushed us in the direction of some of the good stuff. But
What kind of stuff?
Okay, so like for an example, a good example of like the stuff we read was like all of like Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Gray, Daredevil Yellow. And then like a Long Halloween, and of course you read the Batman classics. Like you can't not read Year One and Dark Knight Returns,
Killing Joke,
you can't. So like certain things, of course, you really have to read. And a few times, we would pick up something because also we, at that time, I don't think those guys, in like the early 2000s, those guys weren't shining too brightly. Like for I'll try picking up All-Star Batman and Robin by Frank Miller. And I was like, no.
But he is the goddamn Batman.
He's the goddamn Batman. You can't fault him for that.
I don't see the problem.
I believe
here.
all of us have had that experience with that comic.
Doesn't he like? How many people does he like? How many backhands happen in that comic? Like
so
Superman
many.
backhands
Sir, I believe
Wonder
it's
Woman,
bat
which
hand?
is- Yeah, it's bat hands people. He like bat hands like a Dick. He bat hands Alfred. I
He
think
pretty much
like,
beats Green Lantern to death. it
Yeah,
seems
yeah,
like.
it's just like, what is going on here?
For no
this
reason.
violence. Like,
He's just a maniac.
yeah, I know.
For no reason.
He's a socio. Yeah, he
Yeah.
like kidnaps the kid. And he's like, you keep him in this cave, Alfred, and you don't feed him a shit. He eats cockroaches tonight,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
I love Batman, and I read that. I'm like, now.
I mean, we're talking about Batman, not Frank Miller, right?
yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing.
I don't know anymore.
and oftentimes, and this was kind of always my problem with the big two. First of all, another reason why, besides like the personal bias was like fuck that guy, was also that like how do you jump into something that's 500 plus issues?
Yeah.
Like it's just like I can't wrap my mind around this
Right.
stuff. Like I have to go so far back to know what's going on.
Right.
So many characters. Wait, they restart universes? What? Like guys die, they come back to life though. Don't worry about it. Superman died, he's back. And just like so much stuff. It really boiled down to like.
I feel like that's what you need to say to someone getting into comics is don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
You're going to have to accept some things,
Right.
Yeah.
And I've always had a hard time accepting things. I've always like I shouldn't have to accept it. God damn it! Like and so yeah, it's just like the pure scope. Like I'm also like insane and like I hate. Like I like to own complete things. Like if I buy the first Akira, I need to own all of the Akiras.
Yeah, I have that too.
And like that,
John,
and
I
so-
believe both you and I own Spider-Man 3 on Blu-ray. Despite,
Yes.
Have you ever watched that DVD or disc?
Once.
Okay,
Once.
Mine is still in the plastic wrap. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I was like,
but
that's where it should
but
stay.
We're completists.
completionists.
No, but
is the
and I
key.
think exactly like I'd feel weird owning 1, 2, and like it's so bad, but it needs to be
It,
there.
yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
yeah, and so
How things look on a shelf is very important to
Please
me.
just hide the disc so that
Yeah.
your children never find it. Keep the case, but hide the disc. You know?
Your kid walks in, you watching Spider-Man 3, like, don't look, no! It's the dance scene. It's like, no, son! He's like, father!
Where did you learn this? I learned it from watching you.
Exactly.
Why'd you comb your hair like that?
Looks so cool on Tommy McGuire. Did it,
He's
son.
so dark.
Did it.
When he ate that hot dog. What? Yeah. Sam Raimi, man, what happened there?
It's a very like 1940s style of bad boy.
Yeah. I mean,
And Jazz Club. What's better than that?
He was evil and jazzy.
I know, and that's what evil is, jazzy, right?
You got to watch out for those jazzy kids.
Them damn beatniks always rapping against them squares.
I don't know what year Sam Raimi's living in.
They'll give you a knock on the noggin the size of a grapefruit.
I'm not sure he's sure anymore. So yeah, you're exposed to all these comics and growing up with it. Obviously, at what point does it become you decide you want to make that transition from fan to professional?
Right. Well, and this was also kind of a thing from hanging out with, seeing Matt Wagner and seeing the professional world so much as I kind of thought like, well, just do that. Like, it wasn't really
What a novel idea.
Yeah, it's just like, oh well, I'll just be that, and so it was kind of, and also, I decided. So, like, firstly, out of it is like, well, I don't want to fucking do anything else, and
Isn't that a lovely realization? It's
Yeah,
just like, but I'm not going to be happy doing anything else.
Right.
oh, wait, I'm white, and I'm straight, and I live in America, and but yeah, so there was definitely the point where like I kind of had where things started dawning on me when like you have to take this seriously. This might not happen. Because you hear about all the failure stories, but part of that though goes into like to succeed, you really have to think like, well, fuck that, then just ain't gonna be me. Like I'm just gonna keep pressing. Like I cannot think I cannot think about not succeeding. I will think about it in the like I just kind of have like these plans and never think that like winning is going to be given to you. Never think that success is just going to happen, but at the same time never think about losing. Don't consider that. Don't just if you draw a page and then you look at the page and you find all the little problems and you spend like another 3 days going back and redoing things on that page, you will never finish a comic book. You'll never finish drawing. You have to be somewhat okay with a bit of imperfection because you have to just keep going and creating. And
Attrition is the name of the game.
exactly, yeah. And just like, who cares if it looks terrible? Like the next time you do it, it won't look as bad probably.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. But yeah. So when I really decided, sometime in high school, because I had ideas. I had tons of ideas for comics I wanted to make, series I wanted to do, And it was like, okay, well then it's just like and I also like I was like, I'm better than a lot of these guys doing it. I would read things. I'm like, could write better than that.
That's hugely important, by the way. It's
as
important.
a writer, I walk into a Barnes and Noble, I go to the romance section, I go, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be able to like deconstruct things and kind of like figure them out. You know?
Yeah. Sometimes the worst stuff of a medium is the most inspiring because, like, well, hell, if that counts, I
and
can do
absolutely.
this.
And like one of the most important things is to like really read. Like you have to be able to find what's bad in stuff. If I was to have a film class, I would show everyone Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
Absolutely. I was in a film class where that was shown.
Yeah, and that's like the best thing to do. It's like this is what not to do. It's like
how not to direct a movie here.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, no one is telling that to Tommy Wiseau. Everyone's just walking up and going, "I love The Room."
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of glad
that's the problem.
The fact that he's kind of now self-aware is like, no,
it
Tommy.
ruined him.
Yeah, it's like the reason that movie was so good is because you actually thought it was good.
It was so sincere.
Yeah, it was like you thought you were sticking it to some like old sweetheart, and she'll watch and be like, I shouldn't have broken his heart. He's dead in the movie, And anyway.
See, I'm still convinced of the conspiracy theory that like that movie was made simply to launder money for some kind of Eastern European mafia outfit.
Oh, have you seen Patton Oswalt's little thing about it? Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I believe it too. Like he killed someone and had to get the hell out of somewhere, and now he's making a movie.
It has to be, right? It's the only explanation.
Yeah. I mean, look at that face.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the
So you had all these ideas. At what point do you
Right.
start to actually think about how to do it, the steps to get into
then
it?
I guess really, so then it was okay. Well, I want to do this, and then it kind of turned into okay. Well, then how? And I kind of like that. Kind of like went out of my mind as I went to college. And
college, the great dream killer.
Yeah. The whole like transition into like, oh, I'm alone, sweet.
Yeah.
And
did you
then,
study art in college?
I did, yeah. And then I really I think one of the most pivotal moments in when I really started to form like, how do I get this job? How do I make this work? Because I really started thinking of it in college, like, oh, this is a business. Like, I won't just walk up to some guy and go, this is the comic I was working on was called Children of Babylon. I was like, this is Children of Babylon. I was like, I will publish you right now. It's like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, you'll more likely spit in my face and call the police. So, like.
Officer, he said Babylon.
yeah.
Is that code for? It's happening.
ISIS. And so I went the Thanksgiving of my first year in college. We had it at the Wagner's house, and so besides just having Matt Wagner as dad, Brennan also has another slew of famous people in his family. His aunt on his mother's side is Diana Schutz,
of course,
senior editor at Dark Horse, just retired.
Yep.
And then he also his kind of uncle, because Diana was married for a number of years to Bob Schreck, who has been an editor at everywhere. He's just like DC, Marvel, started Oni,
that guy's
started
name is on
like
so many books.
It's just ridiculous. Now he's a legendary. So he's like a behind the scenes legend.
Oh,
you know? I mean, everyone knows him in the industry.
If you've read comics, you've probably seen his name somewhere. Like,
you've seen. You haven't paid attention to it because it's under like
but
editor, and you're like,
you say that, and I'm like, that's on everything. I've seen that for so many years of my life.
The what is his name? That's
Bob
great
Schreck.
name.
Does he have any relation to Max Schreck from Batman Returns?
He kind of looks like Shrek.
Yeah,
It's a great comic book you got there.
Yeah, big gay Shrek. So they split because he is, he is gay, and so
Valid reason.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Valid reason, and well, marriage is, and so, but they still consider him in the family. So basically, like whenever you have a Wagner family get together, it's like, oh, you could like make a comic book publishing business, right? You have all the elements, and so one Thanksgiving I was talking to Diana, and I was talking to her about I want to get into the business. How do I break in? What's a good way to break in? I've have these big stories, these big arcs that I want to do. Probably around like. I would say like around like long Halloween length. I had like scripted some stuff, but also I always felt that like my artistic competence didn't really match up to my my writing skills. I felt like I could write circles around some guys, but I cannot draw circles around guys. Like I am, like my art, my drawing, is like, amateur at best. So, but anyway,
Would you like to see some of my stick figures?
Yeah, well,
I was gonna say, I think if I could draw, my life would be totally different.
but again, when you're an artist, you kind of, and this is another big thing in college, where you go from in high school, you're an awesome artist because you're an artist compared to everyone else who doesn't do art.
Right.
But then you go to college, oh no, I have to be a good artist compared to the other artists. And then you start really because again, it's like my whole life. Oh, you're really good. Oh, thank you. And then you it's like, oh wait, I have to draw as good as Tim Sale now. Ooh. and then you draw and you put it next to and you're like, oh, my hands aren't as good as I thought. No wonder Mignola hides the feet. And so, so, and that's another big thing. You have to start thinking, you have to start comparing yourself to people in the end. You cannot compare yourself to like your, some idiots at school. Like, I'm the best artist in my art class. Cool. Are you the best artist in the city? Like you have to really start thinking bigger. And, but basically, so I asked Diana, I was like, what's the best way to attack this? I've got a big story, but and she said, we'll do short stories. Do, write and illustrate short stories. Because you can't just like shove off with a big series. It's too hard to pitch. You can't be like, here's the first, few issues. There's 50 total. They're still coming. Don't worry.
I've got it plotted out to about 100.
Yeah. I mean, in certain again, like if you know people, right? That's something else. They're like, oh, Bob, we just had lunch the other day. Oh, you want to pitch something to me? Hey, absolutely.
Christopher Paolini.
Yeah, Paolini.
I'm sorry, I've got a grudge against the guy who wrote Aragon because if my parents owned a publishing company, I'd write an epic series of novels too.
I was like, there has to be something behind that guy. He knew someone. Yeah, I was like, no, it's not that good. It's like there's
Star Wars with dragons, people. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
And as awesome as that sounds.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he can make his sword like, blunt so they can practice.
I'm sorry, my personal qualms against Christopher Paolini aside, I apologize.
This is the first they've come up on the podcast, but not the first time in my knowing you.
Fuck that guy. Yeah, so,
Christopher Paolini, if you're listening.
Yeah. Eldest douche.
He's not coming on the show.
Wasn't an option? Were we in negotiations?
Until now, apparently.
He was next on the list.
He was the other I was emailing with him, but I guess that's over.
We have made eternal enemies with Christopher Paolini. Good.
So she advised you to make the short stories.
So I started doing that. I started making about 20 to 30 page short stories that had the same characters as the main story arc, but really just had them doing little. Again, this was a crime story about like the favelas in Brazil, and it was mainly like kind of think like Love and Rockets meets like Sin City.
Okay, that's a cool pitch.
Yeah.
That's your elevator pitch right there.
I worked on it for a while. Again, that's kind of what I gave to Diana. I was like, and she's like, make a short story.
Yeah.
Get away from.
I've heard it before. Too.
Yeah.
Who are you again?
Yeah, exactly. You're that weird kid that hangs out with my nephew. And so that's really, so I started doing those, and that was the first time, like, I really, like, in high school, we had kind of toyed with, like, making comics. We would do really short things, mainly comedy stuff. I would, like, draw, like, I had these ideas, and I would, like, draw characters from those ideas, but I never really made a comic. And so this was the first time where I really sat down, wrote a script, drew the thing, went out to a printer, got it printed out, and then went to comic book conventions and tried pitching it to people. And this was, I think, like really when I started to see the industry as the industry works.
Yeah. What is that experience like? I mean, what do you go to a convention?
You got to get It works in two ways. Like there's myself and there's my very good friend Ian Shishair. And if you're like him and you have like really great talent, people go, "Whoa!" If you're like me and you give it to them, they go, "Oh."
Yeah.
And put it in a pile. And so, just get used to a bit, like not everyone's going to think you're the shit, like I know, I it's like, why would you not read this? I know what happens in it. It's great. It's like, oh wait, they don't know what happens.
Right.
It's a cover to them. I'm just another guy. but though it does it's great because you're starting somewhere. Like it's better than sitting at home going like that's probably tough, I'll never do it, you know. Those people, what would they say to me? It's like, even if they do shoot you down, like if you go to the same guys and annoy them enough and have them shut you down enough times, they'll start to remember who you are, and that's like the best part. You're like, oh god, you're that fucking annoying kid, but you remembered me, so like it's win-win.
You're the worst I've ever heard of, but you've heard of me.
It's like I'll publish you if this will just get you away from me. And okay, like done. And like again, this is word for people. Like I've talked to a lot of people where just like they like this one girl, I forget the name of the comic. It's by Image. But she just sent them a letter and was like, hey, I'm graduating from this school, I think this is why you should pick up this comic, and they like picked it up. Like it's and so again, like, because this is always something I'll remember is I took a class at PNCA taught by Brett Warnock, who runs Top Shelf, which is an independent publisher in town, and we had a guy from Oni Press come in, an editor, and we were talking to him because Oni Press is kind of like known for they don't take submissions. Like on their website, it was like we don't get submissions. Don't send us anything. Don't drop anything off. We will only look at stuff at conventions. Right. And so we were talking to this guy like, well, what if you don't have access to a convention or blah blah blah? And he was like, well, we say don't send stuff in, but we've read some stuff. Are you kidding me? So like, it's like,
are we going to put a big censor bar over this part of the podcast because Oni Press is going to come knocking on our door now?
No, actually, because this just changed, and now they are this changed like this week. They're accepting submissions.
I don't have to cut this out.
No. But again, like, I mean, the guy said, he's like, it's like, hey man, just I know we say don't drop anything off, but just drop something off. We might read it. It's just like, oh man. So there's always
emphasis on the word might, but
emphasis on the word might. But at the same time, like I guess like you really just have to, like, when you're starting out, just take every chance. Never say fuck it. Never say like, oh, I won't do that. That won't work.
Yeah.
Just why not try it? Even if it fails, like print out 1 million copies of your little comic and then deliver them to everywhere. And who cares if the most dismal percentage chance of success in the world, there's still a chance.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying, and there really is. Like if the right person reads it at the right time, like I've had guys be accepted into Dark Horse Presents because someone canceled. Like the editor's on the phone, they canceled, slams the phone down, looks at the first thing on their desk. It was a submission from that day. They picked him, go, fine, this guy's in, and that guy started his career because they probably weren't going to pick it up.
Right.
But like it just if you hadn't given them your bad idea, then your bad idea wouldn't have become an idea at all.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing. You can't win if you don't play the game.
Exactly. Yeah. I believe it was Wayne Gretzky said that you miss 100% of every shot you don't take.
Right. Yeah.
He's a wise hockey player.
Yes.
That he is. So you obviously now are in the industry. How did we go from this? So you're at the conventions, trying to.
So all through college, I was always
there.
trying to get a job as like a writer illustrator. I was trying to like break into mainly independent circuits because in the more established DC and Marvel, it's generally you get in by writing another character. And then maybe if you do really well on that enough times, they'll let you write something yourself, you know. Or they'll let you take up a mantle of even more important character until you're writing Batman or Superman. But I didn't really, since I had such a horrible knowledge of all those characters, I kind of thought like, well, crap, like I don't know enough about Daredevil to write a quick Daredevil, series because. And so I was like, okay,
but see, I don't know if that's necessarily a good excuse because I feel like some of the most interesting things with these established characters is. I don't know whether or not these writers knew anything about the characters, but them taking these characters in new and fascinating ways that we're just like, I've never seen this before because clearly this is going against the norm.
But at the same time, you also have to know enough of what's been done to know if that has been done before.
Sure.
And I believe like what you're saying is absolutely right because that I learned later. And like, oh no, you can. While you do have to know these certain things, or else the nerds will kill you. But
that was issue 136, my friend.
Exactly. But in general, like you like so many times, like guys have done it. Like I just like I steal a villain from way back when, an entire plot line maybe. I just redo that with like some extra, some little bells and whistles.
Yeah, it's your take on.
Yeah. Or but in general, and to be successful, you really do do need to give like a kind of a fresh perspective on this stuff. Somehow apply. I'm not saying go holy terror with it, but just apply a bit of your own. Yeah, first a bit of your own, because again, like you are. When you're doing that, you're playing with other people's toys, and some people say, well, that makes it easier. But in a lot of ways, it makes it harder because it's easy to like write your own stories.
Yeah.
It's hard to like, okay, I have to deal with this and this and this. It's like some comedy guys say, writing children's stuff is the hardest because not being able to cuss and be profane is actually to not it actually like challenging yourself like that. It actually really makes you grow as an
Right.
artist. And so but I didn't see that at first. I didn't really see that light. So instead I said, okay, well, I need to pitch this stuff to more independent publishers, kind of like your Dark Horse, Image, Oni, Top Shelf, Drawn Quarterly for a second, that kind of stuff.
Possibly Dynamite.
Possibly. I actually did not know who Dynamite was at this point.
Oh, wow, okay.
I had no idea. But please don't fire me.
Yeah, they're like, and now they don't know who you are anymore.
Well, no. It's like they've got enough negative press right now with my comic book. Actually,
Was that right?
Lady Zora, Lady Brought-Hide is currently being attacked for being completely anti-feminist during Women's
Wow.
Month in March, which they're totally correct about. They should attack it.
The Lady Zorro miniseries that you did?
Yeah. Well, first they did Lady Zora miniseries,
Okay,
and then
I read that. I read the Lady Zorro miniseries.
And right now they're crossing her over with a character that makes Lady Zora look like the vagina monologues.
Okay.
They're crossing her over with Lady Rawhide.
See, I have no idea who that is.
Okay, well, take like red S&M gear,
Yes.
throw it on a woman, and put her in the Wild West.
So
Lady
Red
Rawhide.
Sonja in the Wild West.
Exactly.
Okay,
It's
okay,
Lady,
all right.
Yeah. It's Lady Sonia, pretty much.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm working on right now. But
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about
I'll
this.
rewind a bit.
Yeah.
So at this point, I wanted to still do my own story, and I pitch this a lot, and then I kind of really just like wised up. I kind of was like, no, actually, that is kind of the way you do really have to start in other people's work. Unless you have incredible talent. Unless someone picks up your thing, and goes, wah, just like immediately. There's, like you're a prodigy. Then
Lightning in a bottle kind of a thing.
yeah, like you,
Well,
you writing Prodigy. I haven't read it, but
I'm
I'm sure it's
told
good.
I'm spectacular by me, myself, and my glorious mother.
Yeah.
yeah,
You're the best writer I've ever read.
mother.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So I kind of wised up, and really it was at this point Brennan had started working as a colorist.
Yeah, I've seen his name on a few books now.
Yeah, he's been as anyone as the son of Matt Wagner,
Sure.
you'll be successful. You've been hanging out with legends your whole life.
Right.
You're gonna get something, and rightly he did, and he
Talent via osmosis.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what it is. I mean, if I have to attribute success to anything, it's talent meets knowing people. Like you need both at certain levels. Hopefully more talent, but
Yeah, I think I've read some books by some people who really knew a lot of people.
yeah. It's like you must have
Knew a ton of people.
Like, whose dick were you sucking?
Stan Lee.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Excelsior.
Is that what he says when he orgasms? I
Of
think?
course.
Yeah.
How-
Gross.
And so
That we all
and-
just assume that.
Yeah. Oh, you're a true believer.
Sometimes that. Not as often as Excelsior, though.
And
Sorry, I just can't get Stan Lee's O phase out of my head now.
apparently him and Mick Jagger have a running bet on
That's
how many
what I
women.
hear, yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you hear that from? Who do you hear that from? I've never heard that.
Stan Lee.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
He's his number one fan. And so as B-Wag started, I'm sorry, I keep calling him B-Wag. That's my nickname for him. That's
Yeah,
my
that's fine.
pet name. Brennan Wagner, as
Yeah.
he was working on.
He's an artist, damn it.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, B-Wag is his pen name. When he got this job, he was working on it. He would be working. I was like, oh man, you're really, really good at this. I had colored some stuff of my own work, but generally, I was still messing up a lot. And then like one day, he gave me like a lesson, and it like totally changed everything about my coloring. And I was like, and it really like cracked this big thing for me. And also, he taught me about like flatting, which is I had no idea it existed, and it really is like, oh, that's how you color, which is flatting is just basically breaking up everything into flat coloring, because when you color, it's all about selecting a color and then working within if I selecting your skin tone, and so so basically all I can do is affect your face. And like if I make a line, I can go crazy. It only stays within that face because it's selected that flat skin color that is the face. So it's basically breaking up everything into tons of little shapes that are all connected.
That makes sense.
And
yeah.
So I started, and it's actually it's a huge part of the coloring work. Like it's tedious, but again, it requires no real talent, so you can charge way less for it. It's like as a flatter, I was you'll do about a third of the work of a page and get paid like a fifth of it. $10 a page, whereas a colorist will make $50 off that page, and you've done a good amount of the work for him. So I started doing that for Brennan. He was like, "Hey man, you could just be my flatter." I was like, "Cool, that's my first kind of job in the industry."
You can be my flat man any day.
Yeah. Come on, Goose. And so that's what I started out doing, and really I'd say that is an area where literally anyone can do. What you do need is a computer with Photoshop, but after that, anyone can do this job, and it's one of the only and that's how I saw it. I was like, oh, this is kind of this little side, this little shortcut, that no one really knows about, because really there's no there's hardly any. There are no positions like this when it comes to any. I guess maybe a penciler or being an inker or something to a penciler is kind of an assistant job, quote unquote. But really, there's nothing like that for writing.
No.
I guess the editor, but they're getting paid more than you.
Right.
So they're
That's top of the
what
food
most
chain.
writers don't admit is that they bounce ideas off of everybody. So if they listed every one of those people as credits, the pages of the
A
credits
writer
would be longer
has
than the book.
400 flatters.
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Does this sound dumb to you? And then whatever
yeah.
the idea is.
Would somebody say this? I don't know.
Some writers don't, or think they don't need them. And
I think Tommy Wiseau is probably. I doubt he's bouncing anyone. Does this sound like naturalistic dialogue?
I was
to
about
you?
to say Brian K. Vaughan. But, I came like a dump truck. Keep that out of a sci-fi, man. They don't have dump trucks. I'm talking about Saga. Sorry, I'm not a huge Saga fan.
Oh wow!
Really?
You're gonna love the episode that's coming out in a little bit. It's all about our love of Saga.
That's fun. No, I mean, I'll just scream the whole time. Read Prophet instead, because it's just
Prophet is
a
really
better
awesome.
version. It's
Prophet
it's
is super
sci-fi
awesome.
without the soap opera-ness. I don't like soap operas, so I tend to stick with Prophet.
I think
fair
you
enough.
might have loved particularly the soap opera.
We did go off on that for a few minutes.
About liking it or disliking it.
Appreciating it in the context of Saga.
I do like it because it's bringing new readers, predominantly women, and I like that. I like anything that brings in female readers to comics, because they're not it's they don't have a Lady Rawhide character. There's not just a character who's 80% boob. There's no, she's
Right.
not sleeping with anyone, and she is part of the story, and she has lines that people would say, and even besides "come like a dump truck," and so I do like that, and also Fiona Staples is an amazing artist.
Oh, incredible!
I believe half of that episode is just us drooling over. Fiona
Again,
Staples.
I pick on Brian. The sole reason I sort of get off on Saga, or not get off on Saga, get down on Saga, but I don't know if that's right either.
Go off on Saga.
I go off on it.
Does that
And
work either?
Yeah, no, that would be correct.
Okay.
Only when you say go off on something, I imagine I'm like Ted Nugent, shooting guns in the air or something. But yeah, I mean, it's just his because again, I used to really dig Brian K. Vaughan. I loved Pride of Baghdad.
Yeah,
still
great
do. Ex Machina was great.
Fantastic.
But then I around Why the Last Man, it kind of started dwindling, and then by Saga, I was like, oh, this is really great, and then I realized, oh, the parts I like about this are all Fiona Staples. It's my problem with it is constantly the writing. It's just but again, I'm railing right now.
This episode will come out prior to the Saga one, actually. So
Will it?
Prepare yourself.
Oh,
for
interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
spoilers about our episode. We love it. So,
we've mentioned on here before how much we love it. So.
yeah, but we really love it. So that's.
And Fiona Staples, of course, drawing Archie, which we never stopped talking about.
Oh
on here.
man, so yeah,
We
my,
are
my
way
boy
too excited.
Frank Avella is working on that, and yeah, fantastic. He's
Yeah.
I haven't read any of it yet, but his covers and his work and he's like, oh, have you seen like Predator versus Archie? It's just every cover that comes out for that is like, oh, better and better. He did a little like what is it, like The Shining Archie, where like Jughead's the
Yeah.
bartender? Like, oh man, this is too good.
good.
Yeah, just like everyone was like, that's what I need more in comics right
We
now.
are very
Like
excited.
it's like take Archie. Like you can make these things cool. You just have to
Absolutely.
think about them the right way. Kind of go off the rails, and that's one thing that DC kind of has a little problem doing is giving someone freedom. Like
Yeah.
The exception of Frank Miller, as we learned in All Star.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank's on it. Go for it.
yeah.
Did anybody read that? No. We published that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And I think following that, there was another incident with a book called Holy Terror that may have been.
No. That they were like, we can't even touch this, Frank.
Yeah.
You've done so much. Like
That's what I was gonna say. I think that was
cannot
where
let Batman shoot that many guns. You in your own Batman, you said he doesn't shoot guns, and now you have him shooting guns.
It is like Frank forgot everything he ever wrote about Batman.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Frank Miller, like I love like his rise and fall. It's just it's so stupid because like sometimes it's like
It's a Greek tragedy. It really is.
Yeah, it's like,
really
he
is,
might
yeah.
be my favorite writer sometimes. I read
Absolutely.
Batman Year One, I'm just like, oh my god, like even 300. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I can get by the cheesiness. I can, I
Yeah,
really can.
it's great.
And then like after Sin City, I think was like when he thought he lived in Sin City.
Yeah.
like Frank Miller would like he started smoking and like drinking whiskey and like
He's wearing fedoras everywhere he goes.
fedoras and
Yeah.
at Hollywood parties, and I can direct now too. And
Yeah.
I'll rape the spirit real quick. Why not? And just like
Donovan is exactly with you right now.
Yes, we are best friends right now. Even all the stuff you said about the saga, we're now best friends.
yeah, and
That was brutal.
yeah, no, especially like that he knew Will Eisner was. Like,
I
a sick
know,
thing, but it's like, you knew him.
That's my point exactly.
You met him. He liked you.
It's not
you know?
like it needed to be worked on. The idea was completely
Yeah.
beautiful and
It's like,
finished.
no. See, like, I'm going to make it look like my shit. Will
Yeah.
would have wanted it that way.
Yeah.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
Will didn't like cussing. Like,
Yeah. Will Eisner's reading Sin City. He's like, this is kind of what I thought the spirit should have been, by the way, Frank.
yeah.
I just never had the guts. Go for it, Frank.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
there's no way that's possible.
You don't know
Throw
what late
all
night
the
discussions
women
they had in Will Eisner's Twilight Hours.
Actually, there's a book called Eisner and Miller, and they sit down and have a long discussion, and it's beautiful. Have you read that book?
Is that an actual thing?
Oh, yeah, it's
Prose
great.
book.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus,
interview
no.
book.
It's great.
They
It's
were.
great.
They were
I mean,
pretty
and
close.
like technically, Eisner like did the first podcasts because he would just like have artists and like
Well, technically, FDR did the first podcast.
right.
All hail the father of
That's where
podcasts.
we.
Yeah,
that's
one-
where we
one
got
way.
the idea, right?
Actually, no. No, wait, yes. Oh, yeah, I forget when Eisner was recording these, but like he would have like Jack Kirby on and just like
Sure.
and let's
Yeah.
just talk and I'm gonna record it and this isn't necessarily going out anywhere. He just like collected these like just like it's like fucking Nazi gold. It's
Yeah.
you just made it out of nothing and like
Do
yeah.
these recordings exist in some way that you can get a hold of them?
You're starting to be able to get a hold of
Oh,
them now.
man.
Like they're just starting. Like it's like I heard like a snippet of the Jack Kirby one,
Oh.
and it's just like they're just like it was pretty hard growing up, wasn't it? It's like yeah, I felt the ghetto. It did certain things for me. I made me tougher in some respect. Like it's just like I remember when I had to fight that kid for calling me a Jew boy. It's just like that's like there.
Man.
I love Kirby because he's so tough. He's like
yeah.
not a comic book
A
person.
lot of those guys were like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's like no, they were tough kids. Like they grew up in like 1930s New York,
Yeah,
and
I mean, like Siegel and Schuster were like bodybuilders, or one of them was.
They got. I mean,
they were like badass
you
comic
had to
book writers.
fight again because most of these guys were Jewish, and if
Right.
you were Jewish, you were getting picked on
Absolutely.
a lot, and or anything. I mean, like again, like it's just so sad that you look at Eisner, and it's like basically every character in the Spirit that's not like if you're not a wasp, you're a caricature.
Right.
It's like there is no such thing as like drawing a normal looking anyone else than white Protestant English. Like there is no. It's like funny Chinaman,
Right.
funny black guy, funny looking Jew, funny looking Irish guy. Because it's like, oh no, we'll take jabs at whites too. Like they're inferior as well. Like the Italians, draw them with like dragging their knuckles and everything.
Yeah.
It's like and again like
Well, we do drag our knuckles a little bit. I'm not gonna.
well, you are subhuman, but I don't like.
Gorgoni has been narrowed down to mean one of two things. It's either shoeless peasant or hairy mountain dweller, and it's probably a combination of the two.
Shoeless mountain dweller.
Shoeless mountain dweller. Really, I'm descendant of Sasquatch.
That's true.
Simple potato.
That makes sense now.
Yeah, and it's just like he had to pretend like he wasn't Jewish. He had to draw Jews as this sick stereotype.
Yeah.
And like it's like I just have to pretend like I'm not killing myself right now.
Yeah,
It makes something
he
like
did a book
Contact with
about
God
that,
so much
didn't he?
more impactful.
He did.
The
Contract with God.
no, not Contract with God. What was the? Wasn't that?
He did a book, kind of. It's about him working in the industry, which I actually just got a hold of, called The Dreamer.
And I think this might be
that's
one of them.
about him like getting a job in an industry. But what's funny is in The Dreamer, he draws himself looking like the Spirit.
Right.
He's this amazing looking guy, and if you look at him in real life, he's a bit nerdier. And,
Yeah.
You can't say Jewish looking, but he doesn't look like a Superman. He doesn't have the anvil chin. No, he's a regular looking guy.
Right, exactly,
He looks like an artist. But it's just funny because you really had like to draw. That was a normal. If you were drawing a normal person, then that is what a normal person looks like. He looks like a chiseled white man.
Right. Yeah. So you going back to your origins here, you're when we last left off, you were working as a
Sorry.
flatter for Brent Wagner.
Yeah. Oh my God. So working as a flatter for Brent Wagner, and I did that for a while. And so if I can name one kind of like little easy, and that's what I discovered was that like okay, this digital stuff seems to be easier to get into the industry, whereas a writer. Diana Schutz told me nearly impossible unless you can like submit with your art too, like you write and illustrate.
Yeah, I've heard that
it
several
makes you
times.
Very attractive. It makes you more attractive because again, like a writer, like I mean, anyone can give a script. Anyone can write. Anyone can write. And so until you start reading it, you're like, and
Having
Wonder Woman's
edited
getting
scripts
fucked by a
around
werewolf.
town, you'd be
Okay.
shocked at how many people can't write.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It's like,
Well, technically, there are words on a page. I'll grant you that. But beyond
he
that,
stuck out his hand.
Yeah.
They shook hands. Just like, you don't need two sentences there, buddy. It's just like insane. It's like Wonder Woman like kills Batman and Superman kills Wonder Woman. And then, Then they go and they meet the X-Men, and I'm sure like they get submissions like that all the time.
I have to imagine a lot of it is just sifting through like terrible fan fiction
just
stuff.
horrible. Yeah, just like, and then I'm in the comic.
Yeah, and I punch Hulk right in the face.
Yeah, new superhero called Bobby Man. It's just like, okay.
It's just like 75% of the stuff is probably
I am
that.
son of Hulk. I'm his third son.
Exactly.
I'm glad that you know that Hulk has two sons. Interesting.
I do. I actually, I didn't read a whole. Hulk is probably like the comic I've read the least of. But I lived with a guy who was a huge Hulk fan in college, and he's the one who like kind of showed me some stuff like Planet Hulk and Son of Hulk and whatnot.
I love you nodding in approval.
No,
Yes,
it's just
Planet
like
Hulk.
I've never met anyone else who's
There are
like
others.
There are other. Well, no, I mean Hulk fans, man.
Right.
You could tell Hulk fans sometimes. I think.
Sometimes
Look at me,
they
yeah.
look like the Hulk.
Not just from the look, no, from a general disposition, I think. And
Sometimes they're angry like the Hulk.
yeah, exactly.
just because
You're hitting all the points
the
there.
general reaction to people who walk up to me
pants?
go like, "What's wrong with you? Are you angry?" And I go, "No, that's just how I look."
Yeah, I read a lot of Hulk comics.
I read a lot of Hulk.
the Hulk has done this to me. I'm sorry.
You were a real happy-go-lucky guy right until you started reading Hulk.
So about like 4.
Your skin is this green tone. Why are you always wearing purple pants? I mean, always.
They're the stretchiest. That's all I can
yeah,
say.
they stretch real well. Anyway, so the flatting thing got me kind of foot in the door. Again, though, I was working for a friend,
Right.
so you always have to kind of keep that at a certain distance. Like I can't get too ahead of myself because this is still the charity of someone else.
Right,
like,
you're not walking around like a big shot.
Who knows if like
I'm a
any
comic book
yeah,
artist.
yeah. Look at me.
Yeah.
Just like snap my suspenders.
Yeah.
But as I was flatting for him, obviously that wasn't my end game. I wasn't like, I'm a flatter, I've done it.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, what's the next step here? How do I get a bit more in? And at that point, after been giving that one coloring lesson, I was like, oh, well, it seems that you can be hired as a colorist. You know, they can switch them out. Like, again, you can switch a colorist out halfway through a fucking run and no one is going to know the difference.
Right.
You can't really do that with an artist or a writer. People will notice.
Yeah.
Walking Dead, for one.
Yeah.
We almost stopped reading it after they switched from Tony Moore. Like, that was sacrilege to us. But we kept with it. I'm glad I did. So I was like, okay, well, you know, because and also every year that passes and I go to comic book conventions and I pitch my stuff, the more I realize like the whole writing, illustrating thing really is a pipe dream. It will need to be worked on hard. And really I learned like you need to know people. How do I know people? Or how do you meet people? Well, you get some kind of job in there.
A question nerds have been asking themselves for decades. How do you meet people?
How I meet people. How women talk. Yeah. What is clitoris? So
Little man in the canoe.
Yeah. So then I basically kind of started teaching myself how to color. And I would just find black and white pages from various works on the internet. I did a little run with I was mentioning earlier that Nausicaa manga. I took a long stretch of that because it's all black and white and it's gorgeous and it's very easily colored. So I was like, oh, perfect. So I colored this like 4-page action sequence where she's writing. You guys know Final Fantasy, you know, chocobos or whatever.
I know that. I can't speak for these two.
Donovan.
They're big.
Such horrible nerds.
They're
Oh my
big,
God.
like ostrich birds that you ride around and they go, work.
Yeah. The birds that you ride. So, so she's riding her bird, and it's this kind of little chase scene where, and basically it ended up being really great for me because, like, right now, all of the 4 series I've worked on, 3 of the 4 have been westerns, and so that really helped. Being like, oh, you can color outside, you can color nature,
right.
You can color dust and dirt, you know, and these are very important things when you're coloring the Western stuff. It's basically all natural light. You're never dealing with crazy green effects and like neons. No, you're always, you know, unless things get crazy and you get a little bit, you know, in like action scenes, but general, you're dealing with lots of browns. You know, what people wore, mainly beige in those days, you know. Well, unless you're Lady Rawhide. Then it's nothing. Little strips of, like, red over the nips. And
show
so, those. They do. And so I started doing practice stuff, and then it was basically, like, just keep working on this. And kind of just like look and then wait for the opportunity, you know. Like I generally just kept building the portfolio because also like unlike writing, like you can really make a portfolio out of coloring. You can like show it to someone, whereas like look at all the
This is
thousands
why
of
I'm
pages I've
constantly
written.
jealous of visual artists or people who can produce like something that can be instantly like taken in, like music or visual.
I was
arts.
gonna say like welcome to hating musicians.
Right.
Oh, people just like you can go on a stage and do it, and women want to sleep with you.
But I have to go out and it's like,
you.
would you like to read 20 pages of a thing?
Okay, everyone sit down in silence. I'm going to read.
Yeah.
This will take a long time.
It really doesn't get going until the 5th paragraph.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And there's
yeah.
backstory too. You have to know
Footnotes,
these
guys.
characters.
Footnotes.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the kind of art that's immediately you can immediately ingest it.
Yeah.
And so and that's what I thought too, because I'm constantly at this point going, how do I make this work? And it's just constantly like, how do you make yourself more marketable? How do you adapt yourself to be in the place where you can show someone something, because that's all it really is. And how do you get an elevator pitch? How do you make yourself sound attractive? And so
6'3", well groomed.
yeah. And actually that is kind of a big, if you're attractive, like comic book people like attractive people in their field. They're like, oh wow, you're who I wish I was. Like you can draw and you've got fashion sense. Do you want to work with me? Can I just like look at you? Like it's kind of weird. Because like again, my buddy Ian, who's like an better artist than me, is also like a 6'3" ex-Navy like, you know, guy.
Wow, I
so,
fucking nailed it.
yeah, no, he really is. Yeah, and he like dresses perfectly too. So it's just like, fuck you, dude. You know, you can get any woman you want. You can draw any woman you want. Anyway, so fuck him. So
That's the main message
dear
of this
Ian,
show.
fuck you.
Let that live in the internet forever.
Yeah. I'll just float that hate out there. So really it was building the portfolio and waiting for a chance. And then the chance finally came when one day, and this is just as simple as it was, an editor at Dynamite, who is my old editor, who is no longer with them. She just quit and went to Vertigo. But she was like, hey, Matt, we're kind of looking for a colorist. Your son's been a colorist for us. Do you have any other recommendations? And he said, yeah, this guy. And then he said, hey, Morgan, you're going to get an email in like really soon from Molly. Send her your stuff. And that moment was like the whirlwind. That moment was definitely like crazy time. Like getting the email, seeing someone using lingo that I've never what's your page rate? Sign this contract. Download the pages from an FTP. And just really like that moment, and then also like hearing that you're good enough is insane too, because I sent them those Nausicaa pages and a couple other samples, and she was like, all right, he's good enough. And like that, like her, like
Kids got it.
Yeah, so nonchalant, just like, yeah, we'll take on this guy, was like the moment that changed my life.
Yeah.
And so
I'm always fascinated by that. Like to them, that's just a normal everyday
That's
business
just- yeah,
decision,
yeah.
but for you, that's like
world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the world. You're
all of my dreams.
Yeah, you are making someone's like dream, and especially like mine, because like again, like some guys, if you go to Cal Arts, you'll probably get even as an artist, you'll probably get a job, as hard as that is to say. But coming from like SOU, no one knows that school, having, not being a prodigy, it also hurts. So like, it was pretty incredible.
It sucks not having natural talent
Yeah,
that
just
will
natural.
immediately progress you past every other person.
If I could do one thing over, it'd be being a prodigy.
Yeah.
Being the one. Like,
Yeah.
That sounds
be the
nice.
one,
Sounds great.
Being
Yeah.
the next Disney. Okay.
I did that once. It wasn't great.
I was the one for a bit. I gave it up.
Wasn't for me.
Too much kung fu.
Too much kung fu.
As I was killing myself in an alternate reality, I realized, wait a second. This isn't
Oh
chill,
wow,
bro.
deep cut. The one.
Oh,
that
the
movie.
one.
The Jet Li Jason
Yes.
Statham movie. Yeah, there you go.
Jason, did you know Jason Statham is 48?
I-
48. And he's gearing up for the Furious.
Yeah.
Of the
Well,
Fast.
Vin Diesel's like 47.
Vin Diesel's all, and I did not.
Oh
like,
please,
that-
no. Liam Neeson has broken all age barriers
Oh no,
at this
of course.
point.
Oh, dude, Stallone, like 68.
Yeah, I know.
68, and he looks like ground beef.
Oh, yeah.
Sir Alec Guinness. I believe there's a lightsaber scene in A New Hope that is pretty spectacular. I don't know how old he
That
is,
plays like an old man holding a lightsaber, if I'm not
It's
mistaken.
beautiful.
It could have been Michael Caine if like Alfred got to kick a little ass in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Maybe like he went up and caught that arrow or whatever.
That would have been
Stop
awesome.
trying to shoot me. I won't go into that movie, by the way, because
No.
I can go into that movie for like 8 hours.
We have yet to do our
Yeah,
Nolan
actually,
trilogy.
Morgan, if you want to come back, we are going to do an
It's
episode
gonna
at some
be
point on the
bloody.
Dark.
I was
It's
gonna
gonna
say,
be
yeah,
really
no,
bloody.
it'll be a blood orgy if I join it. Like, I'll come in with like.
No, Donovan has some interesting opinions about the
I
Dark
have the
Knight.
right opinion.
Wait, hold on. Like or dislike? real
Which
quick.
of the-
What side are you on?
Oh, he's dislike.
Whoa, which ones? We're talking about
You're
The
talking
Dark Knight.
The
the
Dark
Nolans.
Knight.
The Nolans.
Okay, I loved Batman Begins.
Strongest one out of the three.
Strongest one
Yep.
easily.
Yep, easily out of the three. Yeah.
The Dark Knight has the Joker. Beautiful. Every other category falls flat.
There's our teaser for that episode
And
coming
the
up
Dark
at
Knight
some point.
Rises is okay, but has a few problems that we can address. at a
Oh,
later
Dark
date.
Knight Rises was just like the pitfall. Like if 1 and 2 are like
that
a
part where he
B,
falls into the pit?
and then it's he's literally throw the movie
There's
into
a
a
couple
pit.
pitfalls, I think.
And then in the end, though, like toss a rope back down and let all the murderers out.
Yeah, sure,
Fuck
no,
it,
it's fine.
just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
oh wait,
That's
how
kind
many
of what
criminals?
Batman stands for, right? Murderers go free.
Releasing the
Hey,
criminals.
Hey, if you're a murderer, please don't come up. But everybody else, just climb this
Here's the
rope.
rope. Here's the rope, guys.
These are the people the League of Assassins dropped into a pit
Yeah,
to
yeah,
forget about.
Yeah.
Batman. Nope. Just and well, I mean, come on, because like one of them punched him in the back and solved his back.
Oh yeah,
So-
the greatest chiropractor in the world was in that jail.
Just having why was he down there for chiropracting a mob boss?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
He
but
cracked
He knows
too
how
hard.
to put the bones back, but he can also break them.
Yeah, but he only
bone shifter.
He only fixes.
Oh wow,
heroes.
Bone Shifter. That's a pretty sweet name.
Yeah,
I think
Oh,
they have a
man.
guy like that in
I get that
Naruto,
one.
but
What was that?
I think that's in Naruto already. But
Really?
Yeah, there's
What
like a-
isn't in Naruto?
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't know. I wouldn't
that's
know.
their problem. Everything we've created is just stolen from mangas that we haven't read.
Mostly Naruto and One Piece.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you have 54 trades, there's going to be stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
That no one's foreseen.
So you get the job at Dynamite.
Yeah. So and then it's pretty much like
What was your first title?
Lady Zoro. Lady Zoro
Okay.
was what I started
Cool.
with.
Yeah.
I did that, 4 issues, pretty much the shortest run you can do.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. You really find out like what it means to be your own boss. Like when that is the real test. Like if you can wake up in the morning and go like I can do whatever I want today, but I have to like do some work. But there is no one that's going to tell me to do that work except
Right.
for me. Then it can get, especially when you smoke a lot of weed like I do. That can get.
Is this dropping
problematic.
after July something? When it's technically legal?
Yeah. Kids,
No.
do drugs. We'll get you jobs in the comic. Do them right now.
No.
Panel on Panels did not endorse the using of drugs to get jobs, though we do find it very hilarious.
Yeah. I mean,
We are entertained by it, but we do not endorse it.
well, it keeps you sitting in a chair, which is good.
Okay, all right.
That's the colors come alive.
So do leather straps, but
Yeah. I've tried that before. Hard to get a sandwich. But
really easy when you're high on weed.
yeah, exactly.
The sandwich just seems to appear.
Where'd the sandwich come from?
My powers.
You turn into Jughead at that point.
Look at how many burgers he's
Oh, you
eating.
know, in the Mark Wade version, he's going to be a stoner.
He's got to be.
I hope so. That little crown, like
Who else would wear something
You
like
got
that?
to be really high to wear that
high
around
when
all
you
the time.
bought that
Yeah.
from Buffalo Exchange, weren't you? Weren't you?
I'll take the king hat.
Take the
Yeah.
king hat. Oh.
So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing. So your first title is Lady Zoro.
Yeah. So Lady Zoro, I did that. It got pretty good critical review as far I mean as good as a Dynamite book can get. You're really only reviewed on like a couple sites, but it is nice to see people say nice things.
It was a fun book. I read it. It was it's a fun little adventure story.
Like, I mean, Matt Wagner invented her.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
she was invented in a Zorro script that he did, and it is a fun little story. And
Yeah, I mean it's it's diverting. I mean,
it is what
it's
it
a very
is.
quick read.
yeah, and the art. I think like that was the artist's first project. Maybe he did one other thing, but yeah, and actually, me and Ray Vegas, who is the artist, we've been paired on every story since. We did Lady Zoro together, we did Lone Ranger together, and now we're doing Lady Zoro, Lady Rawhide together. I got onto my probably like the thing I'm most proud of right now, which is I got into Black Cross.
Cool.
Superpowers Project Superpowers Black Cross.
Very cool.
Which was actually Brennan turned down the offer, and this is another thing of like again, it's just getting into the right time. Brennan, like I was next to him. Sitting next to him the day when he emailed my editor back and saying like, nah, I don't really want to do this. And I saw that and I went over to my computer and I typed an email saying, hey, I know that Black Cross doesn't have a colorist as of right now. I will be that colorist.
I would love to.
Yeah, and it's simply like it's all about getting it in the right time, like getting that email. Because like again, she was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, you're on," and
Yeah.
like that's a set. Besides Django Zoro, that's the biggest thing that Dynamite's doing right now.
Yeah, I read some of the early Project Superpowers stuff, the Alex Ross stuff.
I have yet to. I did like a little bit of research, but it was only like kind of research for to work on it.
Yeah.
I never really like
Yeah.
got into reading.
Yeah,
any of it.
I love Alex Ross stuff. So
Oh, he's pretty. Yeah, he's pretty spectacular.
yeah,
and
I
his
check out-
covers are amazing.
yeah, so I sort of follow him wherever he goes. Yeah, it's fun. They're a bunch of like characters once again from the past, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're like old Golden Age heroes. That are being,
Yeah.
I mean, like originally, the original Daredevil was like part of the crew. The weird costume with like he's like split down the middle, red
Right.
and blue with 2 boomerangs.
That's right. Yeah,
He was originally part of that crew, and then they like took him out and did other better stuff with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting crew. Like I think the heroes they're working with on this issue are like Lady Zorro, the American Spirit, Black Terror. And then maybe a little bit of like the what is he, like the Green Monk or Emerald Monk or something like that.
Yeah.
But generally, I think it's those 3.
Okay. And this is Ellis writing this, right?
Yep, Ellis doing Warren Ellis is writing. Colton Worley is the artist.
Cool.
He's done a couple. He's a great guy, but I have yet to read his. He's done a couple other things, but yeah. So Warren Ellis, like he's pretty great.
yeah.
Pretty great. Right? He's pretty up there for me.
He's okay.
He's yet another Brit, doing it better than the Americans can. and yeah, and I just like it because like it's it's not a Western. B, it's like it's kind of like it's dark. Which I like,
Yeah.
But not dark in like the Christopher Nolan way, but dark in like just like Storm. Like there are more mature things, but it's also moving at a rate that is not so like they go into this room and fight people, and they go into that room and fight
Right.
people, and they just keep moving. It's like there's actually like a story here. It's building to something, and that's that's pretty cool for compared to the stuff I normally work on, which is a bit more just like we're doing this so this character can fight people.
Right.
Pop
I mean,
adventure kind
that
of
was
stuff.
that was definitely the sense I got from Lady Zorro. Was like there was this scene to lead to this battle scene.
Exactly. Yeah, she's going to be fighting. Yeah. These people, and there's like a bit of story, but like really, like we want her is just like sword fighting, which is fine.
I love a good sword fight, and she threw that axe in that woman's face.
Yeah,
which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I
Reading
really
issue
did
one,
enjoy
I'm like,
that.
holy
actually.
crap!
Yeah.
It is a company called Dynamite. You think like explosions? That's probably in the picture.
Well, they've done a lot of work with Garth Ennis, so
Yeah.
They
and
are not
I
afraid of the content.
Really like.
no, I'm a huge Ennis fan.
His work with Punisher was probably
Yes,
because him paired up with Goran Parlov, who might be like one of the best guys in the game right now.
Oh, yeah.
And they're actually getting back together soon
cool.
for more Punisher. Which
that's
Punisher
gonna be
and
awesome.
Nick Fury. Which I'm like, did you ever read that run where they did Nick Fury in Vietnam?
Yes.
Oh,
So good.
so good. And like,
Are they bringing back White Nick Fury, or are they sticking with new Black Nick Fury?
No, this was White Nick
probably
Fury,
white,
the Vietnam
probably
one.
white.
Yeah.
I've been a little unsure as to what happened to White Nick Fury as of like the current Marvel landscape.
I have no problem with like a black character, but like it's just
Sure. But when they try to shoehorn him in by like, oh, and Nick Fury always had a black son.
well, and it's just
and
like
unclear as to what happened to White Nick Fury.
well, and it's also like and draw him as Samuel Jackson. Like we're
Yeah.
trying to make this stuff like
Well,
the
that-
movie.
that harken- that-
we know where he went. He went to Tatooine. He lived for a while with Jawas. Couldn't fight Darth Vader, so he went into the Force. We know what happens. We've seen that.
Think you're confusing Nick Fury with
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi again.
No, they're the same. It's different dialects.
yeah, one's a little bit dirtier.
Said
It's
differently.
like Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Like they're pretty much
it's
the
the same
thing.
idea. Yeah, exactly.
Great white forest ape.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I've never heard the insane theory that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Nick Fury are the same character.
Because it's not insane. That's what, come on.
So you're now a working colorist in the industry.
Are, we
they
up to,
say,
are,
yeah.
are we up to present day?
I believe.
Even though this could always end like at any second, 'cause it is like pretty.
Check your phone if you got any emails.
Pretty weird. Yeah, I mean, being a professor,
forget everything.
You're only working on that job. Like you don't. There's no future for anyone. Like you have kind of like maybe your next gig worked out, but that's really as far as it goes because things change so much and times change so much that like they're also kind of doing this, making the schedule up month to month. So really like. I know what I'm working on right now, and so for the next couple months, I do have a job. But like in about a month, I have to start hitting them and going. So what's next? Can I jump onto this? Can I,
Yeah, I mean, this is something I wanted to ask, which is like, I mean, you've done this work with Dynamite. Do you work for Dynamite, or are you a freelancer
I'm
who's just
always
working
still kind of
with Dynamite?
confused. I mean, at this point, yes, because I only do work with them. I have no ties with any other publisher, and they're consistent. So yeah, like I would say I'm a colorist at Dynamite, but like, you know, I maybe getting to the point where like they kind of know me, but you know, for a while I was like, man, like, you know, if I just like didn't hit these guys up, like I think they just forget who I am altogether, and like just kind of like it's like, oh yeah, I need another colorist. And then just like look at, you know, no one comes to mind. They go, oh, Morgan's a colorist, I'll put him on this. They just go, who's the color we got? Bobby. Okay, put him on it. Like it's really like you have to really work at making yourself known, and I think one way of doing that is just being dependable. You know, meet your deadlines and produce good work. You know, you don't want to be known for being the shithead,
right?
But you know, so be known for being good at your work. And do a lot of it, and just like try and build up some kind of like personal, you know, like I friend people on Facebook just because maybe they'll remember my face. So if they're like, who do I fire? And then they put like my face next to the name, it's like, okay, and then they move on to the next.
He's a nice looking guy.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Oh, he had that smile. Okay.
Yeah, all right.
That's what I find really fascinating, and this is a whole separate discussion, but like the importance of social media in these sorts of industries becoming more and more like having a Facebook following, having a Twitter following, having like
and an indie I mean, like if you
do you have a Tumblr page?
If you're Tumblr, like like now it's like I want to write an illustration my own comic book. Well, who are you? Well, I have 5,000 followers on Tumblr. Oh, well, okay, what do you got? Like it really does work like that now. Like if you have a big enough following on the internet, you can convince someone to pick up your shit.
Like
that's
Chris Hastings, the guy who writes Dr. McNinja, basically leveraged his success with Dr. McNinja into a Deadpool writing gig.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there you go. It's just like people will follow me places. You know.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do with the podcast. I mean, that's the thing.
Fingers crossed. John.
Yeah, no,
Fingers crossed.
I'm saying, well, I mean, not that we're going to be writing Deadpool, although we will take that.
Fingers
We will
crossed,
take that.
John. Oh man,
Stop it! The three of us, we can split a paycheck.
Yeah, you get,
Three minds combined.
you get all three of us, and we'll write Deadpool.
to be
for
fair,
you.
some of Deadpool stuff is never mind.
But yeah, it is interesting that is the way this works. Like as we try, you try to get stuff, and it's like, well, how many Twitter followers do you have?
Yeah,
because again, like it's always changing. You know, it's
as of this recording.
I'll follow you. Yeah. I mean, it is.
Please do.
You know, it's constantly and like this new way of like, it's like how many followers do you have? I mean, this has come out in the last 3 years, maybe like
3, maybe 5. Like
tops. Like so, this is a totally new thing again because like the industry is so unsure of itself right now. Everyone's saying like, oh, the print media is dead. How do we do it?
Right.
You know?
and yet we're still going to charge full price for digital comics.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, hey man, I'm always
That's my
going to
only
buy
reaction to
physical
that.
stuff. So
Oh yeah.
I'm there. You know,
I'm still going to buy trades, but charging like $4 for a digital issue of a comic is criminal.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
It's considerably. I don't think we've talked about this on a podcast, but I've talked to you this, but it's considerably cheaper to get a print subscription to a comic than a digital subscription.
Yes.
So maybe they're trying to like
cheaper.
keep us in print then.
Yet it costs far more for them to make the print comic than to just put it up on the website.
To not only make the print comic, but then also mail it to you, ship it to all these people, and yet for some reason that only cost me $20.
I know, that makes no sense to me.
Ad space in comics, I guess, like in the single issues.
Yeah,
and floppies.
that
but
is
I don't
true.
really read digital ones. I don't know if they have them.
They don't.
Ads in there now.
They don't really, except for their own stuff. When I read Lady Zorro digitally, in the back there's like a bunch of Dynamite comic ads.
Naturally, you know. That definitely does exist.
So something I want to. So the sort of day-to-day job of being a colorist. What you get sent digital files of pencils that have been inked?
So they have an FTP, which is just kind of like a cloud, pretty much, and you go on and once the artist has turned in his pages, they'll send you a little email being like, all right, pages are ready for you, and you go on. There's like the file of the comic. You go and you find there's like three to five different files being like line art formatted for colorists, line art not formatted, do not touch, line art for the letter, and then like final, and so you find, and then in interior color files. So you go in, you grab the line from the line art file, and then you just download all those pages, and then generally, so it takes me about 2 hours, give or take, per page. Also depending on whether or not I flat it myself, because sometimes I do my own flatting. Sometimes when work is busier, I hire someone else to do it. pay them nothing.
How sweet is that?
Yeah, just like when I was taking my lumps. Now you got to do it. I'm bitter. Of
course.
No, actually, I pay better. Well, no, I pay the same because I got a very good rate because also like I knew Brendan was sitting right next to me, so
Right.
like, it's kind of hard to like
Screw you over there.
screw my your good friend. So but so it takes about that time, and I normally do about 2 pages a day when a deadline is not like gun to my head, 3 pages when it's like crunch time. And so that equals out to either about 7 out 2-page days about everything included, maybe 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours, and then 3 pages is about probably like 9 to 10. And that's again depending on your artist because some guys draw more like Ray.
Depends on the complexity of any.
Ray
given, yeah.
loves to go complex. He and this one of my little problems with him is he just clogs with detail. Panels are very busy, and so that stuff's harder. But Colton, on the other hand, does a lot of texture himself. He does like black stippling everywhere and goes heavy blacks. Like heavy shadows, so really that it makes it a lot easier on me. So Colton's stuff takes me like the shortest amount of time. Ray's takes me exponentially longer, especially when I have to flat it. It's a nightmare. But yeah, so I mean, and it's really like I can't get more lucky because I make my own hours. I wake up at like 9:30, 10 every morning, and
Waking up at the crack of noon.
Yeah, exactly. Crack of noon. And, so my general work time is from about like 11 to noon until like 9 or 10 or 11 at night. And I used to work at a studio a long time. I just got a new computer, which is a desktop. So I've been working a lot from home because I don't want to take that to my studio.
Right.
But, that's kind of hard because you need to get yourself out of the house.
Right.
When you're just like, oh, I work here and I sleep here.
Yeah.
Do I leave?
The easiest way to like distract yourself while working on any creative endeavor is doing it in your own home.
Right.
Like finding a way to get out of your house.
Absolutely.
I feel is so
My
important.
comic book shelf is right there.
Right.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
and the internet's a thing.
Yeah. Just open that up and
I forget which some stand-up comedian said it was like, you don't want to know why writers go to coffee shops? It's because you can't immediately start to masturbate in a coffee shop.
This is very true. You can't take a bong hit in a
Right,
coffee shop.
exactly.
Yeah. And I've tried that a few times too, especially when I need to write or illustrate. I like to get out of the house.
So I guess the practical, like, so I guess the question is, how do you know what to color? Does somebody go, this should be red? This should be...
yeah. No, no one tells you anything.
Interesting.
No one tells you anything.
I kind of want to talk
And
about the
that's kind of
communication that you
infuriating.
have.
Yeah, no.
None?
I mean, again, and this also goes to script. Like some writers give you a time of day in every scene. Some guys don't.
Oh, okay.
Some guys, and that is annoying as hell. This current guy doesn't do that too much. He doesn't give me a lot of times of day. And these things are important. Or, like, things will be put in, like, and this is why I like working with Warren Ellis. He will, if he does have a specificity,
Specificity.
if he has a, then he tells you, which I really like. He's like, give this a green mist, because a lot of guys do have those, but then they wait until you fuck up and then they hit you. It's like, oh, you have to change this now. And it's like, so really, it does depend a lot on the person.
Yeah, because this is what I was going to ask. Is do you ever like turn in a book and they're like, no, it's supposed to be blue?
It's gotten close a couple times, and yeah, like one time in Lone Ranger, there was a female character who shows up, and I gave her dark hair, gave her like dark brown hair, and then I got an email afterwards being like, hey, she has red hair, please reference like the cover of the issue, which like is not out yet, but you can like kind of look up. And so I was like, okay, yeah, it would have been nice to know that beforehand. But again, they kind of they also kind of count on you, and you do have to count on yourself. You have to do a bit of research, like as soon as I got the Black Cross gig, I looked up, tons of Alex Ross, all the art, memorizing the characters and what they look like, because, no one's gonna tell you that, and it does, but other than that, like you have free range. Like a lot of times, like as an artist, I've had a hard time like accepting like, letting someone else color your stuff. Like, but sometimes they'll make better decisions than you.
Yeah.
It's like, I was gonna make his hair brown, but actually it looks better blonde. Like,
Yeah.
and you have to trust yourself. You have to trust other people.
So there is some artistic license in the coloring though as well.
Tons, tons. I mean, you can really go and like you will if it doesn't work, you'll get an email about it. Change this. But in general, you have lots of freedom. I mean, again, like makes your man's coat, take the right color. But other than that, like the monster, go bananas. It can be pink, blue, whatever you want, as long as it works. And make just like think about it.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised by that answer, but that's awesome. Like,
and it's really, I mean, because again,
were you imagining like a color by numbers sort of thing?
Maybe not that, but I thought, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like you're dealing in a creative industry. Creative people can tend to be control freaks. I would think there would be a lot of things that would be specified.
My ex-editor, the first issue of Lady Zora, Lady Rawhide, the whole thing takes place at night, and I kind of wanted to try something new. Where a lot of times, the best colorist in the industry is Dave Stewart, so I go to him a lot. Just little inspirational things. And one thing I always liked is he doesn't always do a night sky blue. He can in Trinity when they're in Gotham. Gotham's night sky is red. And like a dark beet red.
Yeah.
He's not trying to like hide it. So I really like this. So it's like okay, so I gave it a more orangey kind of brown sky. Like if you've seen the cover of Wagner's Batman and the Monster Men. It's got this big like kind of like almost beige moon and orange, and I really like that. I was like, I want to go for that. And I did, and so most of the comic is, but I put up, little stars, so you can tell it's nighttime, it's darker. But then, at the end of the issue, after turning in, my editor emailed me, and she was like, why is it orange? It's orange. It's night. It should be blue. And I was like, well, Molly, and again, this is depending on your editor and your publisher, because Dynamite has a certain look for its stuff, and whereas Dark Horse has a certain look for its stuff.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more artsy, maybe a little bit more crazy over at Dark Horse. Stick to the lines more at Dynamite. And so that was kind of like, we do Night Sky's blue. Night is blue, it's blue. And so I was like, yeah, but I just wanted to play with it. But in the end, I was like, but I please don't make me change the entire issue, but I will stick to blue sky from now on. So you do, you will get, and luckily she didn't make me redo the whole issue. But, like certain times I have had to redo little certain things, like her hair doesn't look red enough. Tonto looks too white, little things like that.
Why does he look like Johnny Depp in this?
It's the opposite of what we want. It's the opposite of what anyone wants.
Anyone who did that would be an idiot. It'd be horrible if they tried to do that anytime ever.
Thank God they never have.
Again, it's like, okay, Native American character, Johnny Depp. Like, yep.
Hey, he's 1/16 Cherokee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you have like to defend something like that, like, no,
there were so many articles about that.
fraction.
Oh, he's kind of Native American, I guess.
Yeah, right.
About fireworks off a reservation once. Real thing. Leave him alone. Didn't you see Edward Scissorhands? It was beautiful. I cried.
It gives him the right to play any character he wants.
His tribal name is He Who Has Scissor Hands. He of the Scissor Hand.
Yeah.
Sounds much better in the original Cherokee.
Gorgeous.
Everything does.
Uokolesu. Yeah. So
do you guys have anything for Morgan?
I'm mostly curious about the lines of communication between like writers, artists, and like people like colorists or the letterers, or just like kind of these. I don't want to diminish what you do, but like secondary positions on the book.
Absolutely, because it is.
Well, because like
my name isn't on the cover.
the spine. Yeah, exactly. But you do have that nice page in the front.
You get it. My name's in there, which is as a flatter. I was like, no name. Yeah.
But just like. So clearly you have kind of these secondary lines of communication through is like, okay,
Definitely.
you get the art posted to this cloud, or like liner notes, or obviously you have access to the script of the comic. But other than that, do you have any direct communication with the artists and the writers?
Yeah, so that all kind of came about. I don't know how, again, like all I know is Dynamite. I don't really know how everyone does this, but at Dynamite, they were actually very... reserved about giving me any information contact-wise to the artist and writer. In fact, when I first started Lady Zora, I was like, well, who's the artist and artist? And their emails, I like to ask them certain things. I like to be in communication with them. And she was like, the writer, you can have his name. We don't know who the artist is. Like, she didn't know Ray's name. Like, I was like...
She didn't know, or she wouldn't tell you.
Well, and that's kind of what I was like, but really, like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
He's, sorry, Ray, but he's a nobody. So, like, why would you, hide that? Like, I can understand later when I asked for Ellis's email,
Yeah.
she was very standoffish,
Sure.
too. She was like, yeah, you don't need, like, ask us the question. We'll
Yeah.
ask him,
Yeah.
So, with Ray, it was as easy as just finding him on Facebook and shooting a message. Hey, I'm your colorist. Because a lot of the, before you have like the mad fan base,
I mean, they're just guys.
he's just a guy with
Yeah.
a family living in Singapore. He will like answer your question. He reads his stuff. He doesn't have an assistant doing it. So that's a big part of it is popularity. Who these guys are. Certain guys will be easy to talk to than others. So with Ellis, I really had to go. Like I wrote him on Tumblr and was like, "Hey, I'm your colorist. What do you think of my stuff?" And after that, he gave me his email address and we started talking, which was awesome. But so they really like, because for them it is a highly businesslike, and it's like they don't want anyone harassing the writer, saying anything. They don't know who you are. Maybe you're some sick freak that's been able to seem human so far.
Aren't we all?
Yeah,
It's working out for me so far.
You're just gonna be like, finally, Warren Ellis's email.
Yeah.
My
Off your
plan is
skin.
complete.
I'm Alan Moore.
That's where he's been hiding.
This answers everything.
We guessed a hobbit hole, but we were wrong.
Do you have a collection of birds? He's nodding, everybody.
I've got a gerbil living in my belly button. That's good enough. But yeah, so it's really like you still like it's amazing to me like how often like how we think that like these are businesses, but really sometimes like they're very unbusinesslike. Like again, like I picked up that story because it was sitting on my desk, or like how do you talk to like how'd you get in communication with the people that you were business partners with? I found them on Facebook. Like they, so really, things are
bothered
pretty,
him on his Tumblr
yeah,
page.
so things are really unofficial sometimes, and luckily, like I heard Ellis is like really good about getting back to people, and he was, because if it was someone else, like I might have never talked to him, and that's just totally possible. I would have had to shoot everything through dynamite, but I never would have
Infinitely slowing all.
yeah,
Right.
and also no personal relationship whatsoever, So, and that's what I was secretly trying to do. I was like, hey, Warren, if you're ever needing a colorist or anyone, I'm here.
You need someone to walk your dogs?
Yeah. I'll be in England tomorrow.
If you need Mr. Ellis.
Yeah. So it's funny, but it's I enjoy though. People are very nice. Like they tend to be really nice.
People
Pretty
are always
open.
nice right up till they're not.
Yeah, exactly. And it also helps when you when you work with them. When you're
Right.
like, I'm the guy who makes your art look good. So
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so if you don't like sepia, don't fuck with me.
Donovan, you got anything?
Yeah, two questions. The first is, are you still doing your own stuff? I mean, do you still get to write what you want to write and draw what you want to draw? Is that still?
Yeah. So I have about like maybe a week of downtime every month. Just between the issues, I'll finish one, and the other one won't be banging on the door quite yet, or the work simply won't be ready for me. So yeah, I'll have like a good week, and I still write and illustrate my own stuff. I have like I have it on Tumblr. I'm trying to get it onto the current thing I'm working on is called a new age, and that's like a kind of fantasy swordsman situation. And
Fantasy Swordsman Situation is my ELO cover band.
Great. You should book them.
yeah. We rock. So I'm trying to get that onto the study group website, which is have any of you been to Floating World Comics in downtown
For
Portland?
the first time like a week ago.
Yeah, so
awesome.
that's kind of my haven. Like that's I just like curl up on the ground and like it's home. And those guys are also really nice, and they have their own kind of like publishing house. They're independently. Basically, they just put this website together, and they put a lot of really great artists up there that are independent. That don't that haven't been picked up by anyone. And so currently, they're looking at that, and that'll hopefully be up there in a couple weeks. But yeah. So I do. It's all still self-published. So like I have them printed out myself, and I give them out myself. And I've kind of like prioritized that, where I kind of like I'm trying to attack kind of like the indie community with my stuff, and then just business is in like the really professional, the big boys. And then I'm also I'm trying to I'm finally I am writing just a single issue of Lone Ranger, and I'm going to pitch it to them.
Oh, very
Or basically just send them the script and be like, hey, if you ever need a single, like, a one-off of just a single Lone Ranger issue, here's a script,
Cool.
What do you think? And because I'm trying to get into I think writing would be, if I'm going to go from coloring to something, that'd definitely be it.
Second question. If you had to legally change your name to the name of a superhero, not alternate identity, and then have that name spoken over the intercom at a grocery store, what would you want to change your name to?
Supervillain?
Villains count as
Venom.
Venom? That'd be
Venom to the front.
Because then everybody would see you walk forward and know your name was Venom. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. So that's a legitimate answer.
There you go. That's the beginning of your podcast. Strange
Or
questions.
maybe
with Dom
Wolverine,
Holland.
actually.
Wolverine.
That's
Wolverine
Cool.
would be sweet.
Yeah.
Just because I love that line in Mallrats where it's like, should I call you Logan or should I call you Wolverine Logan? Nah. Oh, shit. No, I've messed up too much. Should I call you Weapon X Logan? Nah. Wolverine.
Yeah.
Snick.
I'm sorry. Go off on Kevin Smith quotes all day.
Both great answers.
Yeah, very cool. So as we kind of wrap things up with Morgan and his story, as we turn from that, we turn to how we end every episode, which is our recommendation segment, where we recommend books we think you should be reading. Morgan, you're the guest. Why don't you start us off with something?
So these are current.
Doesn't have to be.
No, just kind
Just
of
like-
recent, maybe.
Yeah.
Recommend something that.
Well, in general,
yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, I recommend everyone read Akira.
Yeah.
If you can get
Like,
your
I believe
hands
one of
on-
my recommendations was Ghost in the Shell once.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. Yeah, and like that's a lot more readable because it's
Yes.
a bit shorter. Akira's, a pretty.
It's a tome.
It's a tome, but when you get through it, you'll be like, my head is big.
Much like.
yeah.
No spoilers.
It's going to explode.
But what's something recent that you're
So
enjoying?
recent stuff. I really enjoyed Akira Toriyama after Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT and all the Dragon Ball stuff is kind of dying down. They re-released they didn't re-release, but they released a movie recently that was horrible. But
Didn't like Battle of the Gods?
I'm not a big fan.
Then what do you think about Resurrection of Frieza coming up?
I don't. Nope.
Nope. Okay.
La, 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 la. Hands and ears. So, but now he's as great artists do. He's kind of taken a step back and kind of gotten back into basics. And so he just came out with this really nice short, just like a single trade, just one easy thing called Jaco, Jaco, about this like. Very much like his other stuff, this kind of curmudgeon-y old professor builds a cyborg. Or no, I'm sorry, no. Actually, he comes down from outer space. But anyway, so he just ends up with this like scientist and his daughter, and they just like kind of like little wacky adventures. But it's beautifully driven. I mean, drawn. It's beautifully drawn. And it's simple. There's not the muscles exploding. It's just like, yeah, this is really like a return to like kind of like basics, cartooning. It's simple. It's fun. There, you don't need the guts because it's well written enough to where it's just like it's like, yeah, I want to see more from these characters. I like these characters. Just have them have lunch and I'll read it because like they're really well made. And I'm just a big fan of like a master who can still produce work that doesn't suck, like Frank Miller. He can't produce things anymore. But
Sadly,
like,
yeah.
but
Did anyone here see Sin City 2? Because I definitely didn't.
I didn't. No.
no, I never did either.
I did read Holy Terror,
I did as well.
and it was an interesting read.
Yeah, a lot of rage.
Very
It's like
angry book.
90% rant.
It's so angry.
10% like, oh yeah, there's a comic.
I guess there's a plot, but mainly,
Yeah, mainly I hate liberals, the Arabs,
Yeah.
and everybody.
Yeah.
Also, his I don't know if you guys ever or know about this, but he did a little. He wrote a little like essay when the what is it, March on Wall Street was going on or whatever, and it's pretty great. Like as angry as Holy Terror is, this thing makes it look like a kid's book. Like
Wow.
it's just he just hates. He's like he describes them as like what is it like freedom haters, drug addicts, and rapists.
Wow.
And then goes on to say, why don't you go back into Mama's house and play your Lords of Warcraft?
Frank Miller, why do you make it so hard to like you?
And it's just like, yeah, it's like, dude, you were the one writing about like rebel movements, and now you're like in your Empire State Building loft. Like,
9/11 changed that, man.
dude, yeah, it's
And you can watch it happen in the middle of Dark Knight Strikes Again.
yeah. And so, anyway, so yeah, I always like a master who can kind of return and just kind of like produce something that's not going to be a big deal. It's like, I'm not trying to do Dragon Ball Z again.
Right.
I just want to make a comic again. It's kind of like
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jon Stewart going back to stand up now. You know, it's like I've kind of mastered this thing. I'm
his plan?
established. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's going back to. I mean, it's good and bad. It's sad that I won't get to see all of it every night.
Sure.
Right.
Delivered to Ted Cruz with great precision. But I still, it's like it's Chappelle. You know, I wish you had the show, but if it's going to cost you your life, okay, do the comedy instead.
Yeah. All right. Donovan, what do you got this week?
So I just read something that came out very, very recently. It's called Red One. Anybody familiar with this?
You were telling me about this.
Terry Dodson, who's also he's drawing right now for Princess Leia at the new Marvel Star Wars stuff. He's done a lot of things, but it's what if the world or the U.S.'s greatest superhero was actually a Russian spy set in 1977, and she's this like really awesome, super intense, like femme fatale sort of, and then she's on an assignment to come to America and become a superhero with the costume and like everything, but not really know what she's doing. Anyways,
Is it a slutty costume?
no, it's a cat suit, pretty much. It's a red cat suit that the zipper I don't think goes up all the way. You know,
It physically cannot.
It's
Yeah,
Catwoman-esque, though?
Kind of Catwoman-esque, and they make a comment about that of like, it doesn't fit, and her contact in America being like, that's the only size we got, haha. You're sexy. Anyways, so
your boobs are too super.
it's like I don't know, it moves really quickly. I mean, it doesn't waste time getting her to America and in the middle of this conflict, but it's just really fun, really upbeat, beautifully drawn. If you know anything about Terry Dodson, he definitely likes to draw people a lot.
Cool.
And it's great. So
Very cool.
like I said, the first issue, like not trade, first issue just came out. Just picked it up, and it was worth that purchase. I don't collect things in single issues, but I might start doing it until the trades come out. So
Sure.
it's cool.
Very cool. Gorgoni?
I just finished up reading the first trade of the new Miss Marvel run.
Yes. G. Willow Wilson.
Yes, that is. I was surprised at how much I liked it.
It's
quite frankly,
great.
Also by actually an artist who made like the extended list, which is Adrian Alfona, who drew the original like 3 arcs of the Runaways.
Oh,
Frank
cool.
Givon.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense looking at it. Have you read Miss Marvel, by the way, Morgan? Oh, man. Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great stuff.
I haven't read it either, John. Thanks for asking. Fine.
I know you haven't read it. No.
I always have a problem with the big two and a lot of people doing any female character because there's kind of been this new trend where like, okay, we're gonna try and not go complete sexist. Like we're trying to not be so horrific. Let's make them empowered women. Only the problem is their idea of empowered, and I saw this with like they tried to do this with Starfire a couple years ago, which was
that
like,
was a whole.
she's a
nother car
woman
wreck.
because you know why she's a powerful like a woman is because she fucks everybody, but she chooses who she. It's just like, are you kidding me? Like,
that is not what Miss Marvel is about.
okay,
at
good,
all.
yeah, because like I'm always scared.
So, I mean, Miss Marvel not only is a teenage girl, she's also a Muslim.
Yes.
And the book is written by a Muslim woman as well.
At first, it really feels kind of like a grab it, like we're going to get diversity all up in here. But it is genuinely a really good book that is centered around a family drama of this like Muslim family and this girl who gets superpowers and how she deals with that. With like,
I mean, it reminds me a lot of like Spider-Man in some way. I mean, because it's just like yes, she's a Muslim female, but it's really like she's a teenager and a superhero.
it's like yes, she's Muslim, but she grew up in New Jersey, so So
Yeah.
She loves the Jets. Yeah,
right.
She's American.
But it's a fantastic book. Aside
No,
from
it really
obviously
is.
being
My,
groundbreaking.
my
in
one
that.
complaint is that the first trade really doesn't close up anything in terms of the plot. So I'm just like, I need the next one right now.
It's coming out fairly soon.
Good.
take my money.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
It's a great comic though. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, that's my recommendation, Miss Marvel.
Cool. My recommendation is a book called Zero. It's an image book.
I think I've heard of this.
It's by a guy named, I believe it's Ailes Cott, if not Elise Cott. I don't. Whatever.
Pronunciations.
Yeah, we screw up people's names all the time on this show, I'm sure.
And they're listening.
But
Probably.
so he writes it, and then every single issue has a different artist.
Whoa.
Yeah, so the art style changes from issue to issue, but it's the same story.
Interesting.
And it's about a spy named Edward Zero, who basically finds out that the spy organization he's been working for are really the bad guys.
Of course.
And
like
so,
that.
yeah, but it's not like James Bond sci-fi. It's like or James Bond spy stuff. It's like science fiction spy stuff. So they're dealing with like crazy.
More Men in Blackish sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe not quite that far, but more like supervillains with teleportation devices and stuff.
Okay.
And so it's like James Bond, but taken one step further into science fiction.
Sure.
Where the weapons are really like crazy mind bending
Freeze rays
stuff.
and-
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's a really cool book though, and really interesting that they do not have a consistent artist, and that's like part of the design of the book.
It's very bizarre. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, but it's a cool if you're into more kind of head trippy sort of thriller sort of stuff. It's a fun book though. It's an image book. If I didn't, I think I already mentioned that. But yeah. So that's my recommendation for this week, which brings us to the end of the show. Morgan, where can people look you up or look at any of your stuff? Do you have any?
Right. Yeah.
Online?
So
Plug yourself.
Yeah. Time to plug. Yeah, you can find me on Tumblr, morganhcomics.tumblr.com. You can find me on Twitter. I'm Morgan Hickman 64.
Classy.
Yeah, very. Hopefully soon you can find more of my stuff on studygroupcomics.com, which I just recommend anyway. My buddy Ian's on there, and it's just like if you want to know what the people who aren't getting paid for making their stuff are doing, and yet still have a tremendous amount of talent, check that out. And then just you can find the issues nationwide.
Yeah, very cool. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Panel on Panels, or we're also Panel on Panels on Facebook, or you can email us, panelonpanels@gmail.com.
I mean, I don't know why you would, but
So
you
far,
can.
people don't seem to want to. So,
Personal attacks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just feel like Twitter, Facebook's not giving you enough space to do this, you can angle it right at us on the email. So I think that closes things up for this week. We want to thank our guest, Morgan Hickman, of course, for
Thank you for
joining
having me.
us. No, you've listened to the podcast. Are you going to listen to this episode, or is that just going to be too surreal?
Oh yeah, no. You know, my buddy who is working also. He's a young guy, and he told me like you got to be kind to yourself, like because I probably will listen to it, but he's like you got to listen to it twice because the first time you'll hate yourself so much, but the second time you might actually kind of be able to listen and take out the hatred. So yeah, I
Maybe. It hasn't worked for me so far.
I still hate myself quite a bit.
Well, we hope that works out for you. For Panel and Panels, I'm John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gargoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
For now, I'm Morgan Hickman.
Keep reading comics, everyone, and remember, #Archie is our stalwart.
#Archie is our stalwart.